Hi demons and ghoulies, my name is Hex and welcome back to my channel. I wanted to do another speed paint because I am having fun with those, but I also kind of wanted to see if I could do some kind of like lesson or tips and tricks, and this one actually kind of stumbled into my lap rather than me thinking it out. It's, I think, a conundrum a lot of artists face, and it's fixing a quote-unquote bad illustration. So when I was starting with this sort of idea, still the same sort of vibe as what you're seeing, I wanted to expand upon the idea of Samuel and his sort of ability to open portals between his realm and like the mortal realm, Earth. And I really like the idea that you can see through this red portal what his side of reality looks like, which is, of course, everything is red, but you can still see the reality of Earth like behind it. So the portal is very transparent and he's stepping through and you can see him in both realities and the realities on top of each other. And in this image that I'm sure I've got on screen, I had, like the one I'm working on right now, I had a 3D setup and that's what I was working off of. But as I started to get going, obviously I didn't get very far, but I knew that like this is not working out. I don't like this. It's just not good. Like the perspective of it is fine. Everything is proportional to how it's supposed to be. Everything is laid out how it's going, but the idea of the illustration itself is not working out. So what do you do? A lot of cases, this one included, I do try to see if I can change the composition, move some things around, but with how this one was set up in particular, I'm really kind of bottlenecked into it. There's not a lot that I could change. The perspective is harder to shift. I would have to take the 3D render and sort of pivot the camera, but I wanted it to be like in someone's home, so it was like you kind of felt bottlenecked and like pinned against him, like there's no way that you could wiggle around him. And I kept putting it off, and I was like, oh, I don't like this. This is garbage. And despite knowing what was wrong, I was having a hard time fixing it, and I came to the one conclusion that I don't think most artists like to do, even though it's probably the best thing to do, and it was to start over. Toss it in the bin, start over new. Can you tell I'm deflated by it? I don't want to start over. I already put in so much work, but I kept telling myself, as you should as well, it's just your first try. Give it a second chance. Try a different perspective. In this case, literally. I try to treat it like it was just your first attempt. You're getting warmed up. The second time is probably going to come out better. That's like with thumbnails, with a first draft. You're just getting the idea out of your body physically and into some kind of medium. And it helps to just try it again. So I was like, okay, like, you know what? I'm sick and tired of this. I'm doing it. I'm going full hog. So I took another 3D render this time. Obviously, instead of bottlenecking ourselves into the hall, I want Samuel to still be in a hallway. That way you can see that he's like hunched. He's approximately, I think 8 feet tall, so he's kind of, I should have probably made him a little more hunched, but he's like, it's crowded for him, he's hunched over, he's in this hallway which is narrower than this main room that we're in. Actually, and the perspective of it makes it look bigger, but it should be like the same size, which is kind of fun. But we have a little bit more breathing room. I think it's not as like fun and dynamic as I want it to be, but it's still better. I'm not super satisfied with this all in all, but I do think it was definitely a fun experience to learn and do some 3D rendering and work with that and paint on top of it and do some fun lighting, which I'm always a fan of. I like that this feels like not like a story, a little bit, but that this is caught in the act. I was sort of feeling like you've come home, you hear something in the hallway, and then like, oh my god, what is this fiend in my home? And that is kind of the vibe I was going for. Later on at the very end, you'll see me try to do like a flash photography snapshot where I try to do a white cast over everything that's supposed to be catching light, like you're taking a photo in the dark, and it was gonna be like his eyes lighting up. But again, that didn't work out, and rather than try to do it again, I said, you know what, this is what it is. I'm not gonna fuss with it too hard. Maybe next time. And there's an art to that too, of knowing when to stop, knowing when to be like, you know what, it's not worth fighting right now. I have to pick my battles, and this is not one of them, and I gotta chill. But a lot of the times, with like I said, change of perspective is really important, and in this sense, it's like we are taking the perspective and changing it drastically. Like, you know, just, instead of looking straight up at him in the hallway, we've backed off, and it's a little more eye level. I think it's important to, when you have an idea and as you're having a hard time with it, to do like quicker thumbnails of what you're feeling, but also like what I do with Blender and doing these little mock-ups is I will post everything how I want it, as close as I can get, how I'm feeling, how I'm vibing, and then I will take the camera and I'll just like fly around and be like, is this a good shot? And I'll take a few screenshots of what I like, and then I'll compare them. And sometimes as I'm posing the camera, there's like a really good shot that catches my eye, and I'm like, oh, there she is. And that's, you know, it's like with inspiration too. You can't really force it. You kind of have to let it come to you. And with finding a pose and a good sort of composition that can kind of be the same. I said I wasn't super happy with this. I think a lot of it has to do with me just being frustrated that things weren't going my way. I'm sure you can relate. But I did feel like I got to try a few new things with this that I liked, that was fun, and that was, the big one was the windows, doing the sort of beautiful light, like moonlight streaming in, and the actual like shine of the glass. I was like, oh, this is so satisfying to do. And it is in part because I set up the lighting in the first place. And when I had seen how the render came out, I was like, oh, here. I actually purposefully put the light a little lower than it really should be, where like the moon will be in the sky. It's like almost like just above the window. And it's just to get the lighting, and a lot of the time that's kind of how some stuff works. So you just kind of have to twist the rules a little bit to get it to look kind of cool. Otherwise, it'd be really hard to make things look actually interesting without fudging it. But I got to really put into practice like rendering some of this wood, and it was very nice to have a very solid basis to work off of in the first place. Like, I didn't really have to do a lot. I just had to put the texture of the wood, the floorboards, put in the quote-unquote paintings. I wanted everything darkened up in the corners of everything, that like ambient occlusion. I didn't really have to do anything to the walls. The lighting I did, the curtains I had to redo a little bit, and then obviously Samuel, our star, I had to put him in there. which was most of the work, but it felt really nice to have a background feel accomplished without having to put a ton of effort into it. And like, I didn't have to draw it all by hand. I just had to sort of go over what I had already made. It was very satisfying. I want to be able to do more backgrounds, but if I can also get away, well, I shouldn't call it getting away with it. I did make it myself. I did render it and light it and shade it myself, you know? It feels like cheating, but it's not. It's not. It's just another tool in my toolbox that I can use. But it's been a long time since I've really been stumped by an illustration like this. And if you're also an artist and you're like, man, I know that feeling, what is your like go-to strategy for getting yourself out of a sort of specific slump? Like, it's not art block, but it's just like, man, I can't get this one thing down. How do I fix this piece that I already know I want to happen? Because I know that someone's got like a funky tool or something, you know? Would there be other sort of tips and tricks that you would want to see from me? I do want to do more, like, I want to talk more about like not how to like do a tutorial, but like how I do this, or if this happens, this is how I get through it, and sort of have some sort of assistance to artists who need and want that sort of stuff. I want to help people. As an artist, like, I want to help other artists, and I want other artists to help me. I want that community. I think that's very, very important, especially in these very trying times. Going back to the illustration though, I will say, I struggled a lot. This whole thing was just a huge struggle. I had a hard time with Samuel's face in particular. His body was fine, but when I got to his face, I redrew it like 3 times because I wasn't sure if I wanted it to be that Samuel caught us, the viewer, in the act, or the viewer caught Samuel in the act of teleporting into the home. And I initially was like, no, I think it'd be cool if you found him like Santa Claus sneaking into your house, except extremely evil. But I was thinking about it, mulling it over, like, that's not his character. He knows what he's doing. He's not the kind of guy who was going to get caught by surprise. He is going to catch you by surprise 1000%. Even though I like the idea. And I shouldn't let that stop me. But I switched over to him looking a little more menacing, a little more, oh, hello there, you finally found me, did you? Sort of face. And even then, I kind of struggled with his expression because I wasn't sure if I wanted his eyes to be really wide and menacing or very like narrowed, half-lidded, like this is just another Tuesday for him. You know what I mean? Very relaxed, like it's no big deal. This is every day for me. But this is gonna be a nightmare for you. And then I got to the whole point of this illustration, the portal, and it was a lot simpler than when I had initially done it, which, a little bit of a bummer. I just slapped in a couple of these buildings that are all in red, made it very transparent, faded it out, and then made that very edge like glowy and cinematic. And I was like, man, for it being the main feature, it really doesn't play a huge role, although again, it's going to be very, very dark, and this is highlighting against everything of Samuel and some of the furniture, and the lighting is sort of like the takeaway. It's supposed to be mysterious and not super bright and in your face, but what can you do? So let me know what you think of this. I think it's pretty okay in the end, I will say. I ended up making another Samuel piece entirely different after this one. I was like, you know what? I have inspiration for something else. I'm gonna whip it out in like a day. And I made this, so I'm sure it's on screen. And I like how that turned out. But I was just like, whoa. Well, that came out fine. But, you know, it is what it is. Art's funky like that sometimes, and you can't force it. It's just gotta be what it's gotta be. Listen to your art muscle, your art gut. It's got stuff to say. I know it does. I'll let the last few minutes of this video play out. Please enjoy. Please tell me if you've got the same sort of slumps that I do with specific compositions, what you do to get out of it. If there's anything you want to see from me, let me know. Let's start a conversation. Anywho, have a lovely day, night, or evening, wherever you are, whenever you're watching this. Treat yourself to something nice. Enjoy the rest of the video. Bye, guys. Bye.